everybody, and welcome back to another episode of On the Delo. It is episode 160, and we're going to do first ever book review. That's right. We have a little book review of the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I know, right? Delo reviewing a book by Mel Robbins. Here's the thing. The message in this book really hit home with me, and there's just a lot of good and entertaining talking points that I wanted to go over. And it's my podcast, and I can do what I want. So welcome. If you're sitting there drinking your coffee this morning, hanging out on the couch with me, or maybe you're going for a walk, want to get those 10,000 steps in, right? But that's my wife and I have been doing that, and walking has absolutely changed my life. It's just one of those things that I have to do. And being type A, I got to make sure I get the 10K in, right? So thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying. Absolutely appreciate it. I got everything set up here. I've got all my little morning drinks. I got my water. This is like pre-Metcon stuff. I have this little clean energy drink that I've been ordering. The problem is, so I usually buy it from Whole Foods, and the problem when you buy it from Amazon, all these cans get beat to shit, but still 0 calories. It's organic ingredients, and it's good. And no, I don't get paid for this. This is just one of the drinks that I enjoy. I'm trying to really just dial down all the things that I'm doing. I'm reading another book now called Essentialism, and I'm loving that book. I'll definitely do a talk about that book after the Let Them Theory. But my goal at 51 now is to do the dial down process. And that's everything from clothing to things that I get involved with, to responding to any and everything all the time, to the meetings that I take. My train is just getting short, and I want to spend most of that time with my dogs, my wife, myself, my kids, right? My family. So that's another podcast for another story. I do want to get into this Let Them stuff right now and talk about the book. For whatever reason, in 2025, I took a turn for the better. I feel for the better for me. I got back into reading, so I've gotten away from this phone. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I got the phone in my hand, and I'm really taking down the amount of minutes that I'm just sitting here. As we all talk about, mindlessly scrolling. I'm putting the phone away more. Now I'm creating it almost like a tool where there's a time and place where I can go in, I can be the most efficient. I don't have to jump on everybody's, email right away. During, workday, I like to be there a little bit more present. But, once I get home, I'm just trying to put this thing away, trying to just spend more attention. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm definitely working on it. And so part of that reasoning where I tell you that is because I've been reading more. And I'm actually into and I'm a slow reader. I'm not very intelligent, okay? I did go to college. How I passed, I have no idea. I can't do math. I can't talk. I mean, just ask Jeremy Scott. The shit that comes out of my mouth makes no sense half the time. And it does make sense half the time, at least to me. And for whatever reason, people enjoy it. And I've done very well in my business because of it, which leads me into another subcategory of we do have this, as I get into more focus and more reading and doing some more stuff, again, back to the focus of what I want to do in life. And a lot of it is coaching. A lot of it is creating this community that we've created with the Built Different Mastermind. And Jeremy and I are enjoying it. And believe it or not, we're 1.5 years into it. And the men and women that we've made relationships with during that mastermind have been absolutely great. I know we've helped a lot of their businesses. We've helped them both mentally and socially, and with business structure and connections and different ways of doing things that maybe they haven't thought of because we've already done it, and we've either had some success and had some failures. So it's been a lot of fun. So the business, the Built Different Mastermind, it's definitely one of those items that is on my list of things to day in and day out really put some time and effort into to help others, because that's where I'm at in my life. I'm over 25 years into this career, and before that I was in the music business doing all that stuff. Everybody that listens to this, they know, blah, blah, blah. So by all means, please check out the Built Different Mastermind. That's in the show link. Check out, just come part of the free community. Even if you don't want me to coach you, totally cool. We all have somebody for somebody, right? But just be a part of the community and check out what we have going on there. So that's that. And other than that, I'm really focused on my insurance business, which is great. The let them theory has really helped me recalibrate a lot of the stuff that I do or do not that's a Yoda term. I'm looking at Yoda right now. That's one of the theories that has let me recalibrate what I'm doing in insurance as well. And insurance is going good. I have a great team. Those things, bar, restaurant, insurance niche, along with a lot of other facets of insurance that we do, has line items to help people through their progress, because I know insurance is probably the most invigorating thing that people want to buy or be a part of. So why not buy it from somebody that you have a relationship with, that that you trust, that you hopefully love? It's all about relationships. It's all about just having that good, honest talk and appreciation for each other. Because it's not a one-way street. In business, in relationships, in any of that, it can't be a one-way street. If it is, you have to get out of it, right? And those are some of the things that I have learned over time. So let's get into the let them theory. It's this book was really good. I would mark it as probably an 8 out of 10. Now, I only say 8 out of 10 because some of the stuff in there I just didn't resonate with me, probably not part of my life, and I skimmed through that. But it was only like maybe a chapter and a half of stuff that, was no big deal. And some of the stuff was about, how raising your kids and the whole let them theory on that. Albeit entertaining, I definitely could have done a better job raising my kids. I think some of us, or those of us listening, can probably all appreciate the fact that we all probably could have done a better job. I mean, what the hell do we know, right? And granted, I didn't get my kids till they were 9 and 11. They are quote-unquote stepkids, but they're really my kids. But again, I'm a 38-year-old man that it was a kid himself, basically, and had zero responsibilities. I'd been single on and off relationships, prior to that, and then all of a sudden these two wonderful children, these cherubs, had jumped into my lap, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just wanted to make sure that they liked me because I was trying to get into their mom's pants, right? And all joking aside, I fell in love with their mom, and I fell in love with them rather quickly. So it's that part of the book just was like, oh, wow, if I probably had read this before I had kids, might have given me a different perspective, might have helped me raise them a little bit better, but, I just spoiled them, and that was it. It was like, hey, I want to be the cool stepdad. So I was, and I might still be at times, but man, I got to tell you, those kids drain you. I know if you have kids, they probably just drain the pocketbook, man. It's, whoo. Okay, so I got some thoughts on this. It's not about just letting them, do whatever, and it's really about letting me. So if you're thinking about this in context of what you're hearing, it's about you being able to do your thing and understanding that what you do is what's right for you, doesn't necessarily have to be right for them, right? But also learning that when people do things, whether it's your family, well, let's talk specifically family, okay? Family's a good one. If it's your family, we feel obligated. I know I have at times. We feel obligated that because it's family, because it's these people that are in your life, that they're siblings, that they're parents, that they're this and that you have to do any and everything for them, regardless of how that makes you feel. And that's just not, it's something as I get older, it's just not true. We also sometimes feel like we have to change them. We have to change how they act, the things they say. And I look at my parents, and I look at the perspective, and I'm like, okay, my parents are 25 years plus older than me. Think about that. They were children when they, decided to partake in the activity that created, little Delo. And now they've got all this stuff that's ingrained in their mind and in their head of who they are based on circumstances around them, based on events, based on things that have happened to them. And for me, as an older man now, but still, their child, a lot of times I just want to tell them no or correct them or almost treat them like the child now, right? And what this book has helped me understand is that there's nothing that we can do about that. Absolutely nothing. And whether it's my mother-in-law, whether it's my mother, whether it's my dad when we go out to eat and he repeats the same stories or has got food on his face or whatever, I'm getting in a better place now to just say, you know what? Let them. That's who they are. Because they do the same stuff all the time. And it's not my job to change them or even want to change them. Why would I want to change them? They are my parents. They are my spouse. They are my kids. They are beautiful the way that they are. They do the things that they do because that's who they are, not who I necessarily need them to be. It should be who I want them to be. I want them to be themselves. And that should be the same in theory when you're thinking about how you are with yourself. So let's go back to like when you were a kid, right? And this should resonate with a lot of you. If not, you're full of shit. Because there's a time, definitely a time or place when we're younger, and whether that's middle school or especially high school, even elementary school to a point. I was thinking about, all those times, and there's a lot of insecurities. We're getting to learn who we are as children, as young adults, and then has grown, almost grown adults, adolescent adults, or whatever you want to call it. And through these phases, we are running into different sorts of people, different sorts of cliques. We're trying to figure out, why does this person like me or not like me? Or why am I not getting invited to this and they're getting invited to that? Or there's times where we feel like outsiders in our own life because we're seeing people do a lot of shit that we wish we were doing, but do we really wish we were doing it, or do we just go on the basis that we feel excluded and we're not concentrating on possibly just creating our own lives at that point? So I know when I was younger, there was the popular crowd, right? And this was in Atlanta, Georgia. And there was the crowd that had the money, that lived in the same neighborhood, that had maybe the dudes were considered the good-looking dudes because they had this or that. Maybe their jawline came in a lot quicker. I had a big nose and, zits. The only thing I had going for me was muscles, right? I always liked to work out. But other than that, like, nobody gave two shits about me. I just kind of figured my way into the popular group, but I also figured my way into the unpopular group. And I guess popular and unpopular, it's all a perspective. But at the time, it was everything. It was like, I want to go to that party. I want to do this. And all that stuff, all that analysis that we play in our head of what is, cool, hip, not. I mean, remember members only jackets? I remember when I got that, I thought I would be cool and be part of the popular group. All that stuff is a matter of perspective, and it's a matter of perspective that we allow to play games with inside of our heads instead of just saying, hey, you know what? If they don't want me to come to that, if I'm not invited, if I'm not a part of that group, cool, let them. I'm going to go and be me, right? And Mel talks a lot about that and a lot of her trials and tribulations through life and, her biggest let them moment, which was her child's prom and the things that they wanted to do. And even, raising kids now, I can appreciate what I read in that book and how I read it because I'm like, okay, there's a lot of instances now where, I have one kid at college and one that works for me over here, and their choices are not necessarily the best choices, but I'm not going to sit here and dictate and overrule. Obviously, I'm not going to let them hurt themselves or do anything bad, but I'm also not going to baby them anymore. They're 21 and 23. It's like, you got to figure this shit out, right? At some time. And that resonated with me when Mel was talking about that in the book, because I'm kind of like, I just got to let them make these choices. Because if I don't let them do that and I bail them out of every situation, whether that be financially or emotionally, I'm not doing them any good. I'm not letting them build their own life and their own social credit in order to be the best human that they can be for themselves. Because we're all individuals. We all have to figure out our ways of doing things the way that we want to do it. And that takes practice, and that takes error, and that takes mistake. And a lot of times as parents, as I read in this book, we want to save them every time. It's my wife, I mean, she's the best mother ever. The best mother ever. Like, to the point where, like, I almost wish she was my mom, right? Well, she kind of is now. And she just takes care of those boys so well and so good. And sometimes I feel like she feels, well, I know she does, feels underappreciated. And that's okay, because they're going through their phase, and they'll appreciate her at the moments that resonates with them and that they feel is necessary. And at times, I just tell her, honey, it's okay. They love you. They do. You just got to let them have these feelings and do what they do. You keep doing you, and you keep doing what you feel is right. And if there's a point where you're frustrated and you don't want to keep doing that stuff because you feel that underappreciation, then do what you want to do. Step back a little bit. Don't do as much, and see what sort of reaction that triggers from the boys. So you look at the younger aspect of social pressure, what we go through as kids. You look at as we get older, as we're adults, if we have kids, don't have kids, the decisions, the stuff that we do. I will share some personal stories about, when I was single, and a lot of this resonated when I was a single man. I even talked about this with my wife the other day. Holy cow, I was a train wreck from, 25 to probably 30, well, up until I met my wife. So I would say up in about 38. I think I met her a year prior to that, but we didn't start hanging out until after, like a year after. And I wanted love so bad, right? Looking for love in all the wrong places. Okay. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand what love was. I want to know what love is. I get all the songs now. If you're laughing, if you're listening, I hope you're laughing, because I'm just like, it's Sunday morning. I got my clean energy, and it's already daylight, which I love about Arizona. All right, let's get into my pathetic relationship stuff. So I would go in and out of relationships. I would always try to be a pleaser. I would do any and everything I could to, let's just say, keep the relationship alive. Were there relationships that I probably had gotten into and I figured the way out? Absolutely. I had long distance relationships, thought that was going to work. I had abusive relationships where, I literally got punched in the face and I had somebody come at me. That was cool. Not really. But yeah, no, look, I'm a very emotional and very, like, how do I say, happy being, and I want to give. And sometimes, the passion of love gets the better of people, and so does alcohol. And alcohol and relationships, for me in the past, it didn't work. That shit was bad. So that was no way to start or have a relationship. And a lot of these women that I was involved with, they're all great people. I mean, it is what it is. We're all going through phases at certain parts of our lives and expecting certain things to happen or not happen. And unfortunately, people react in certain ways that aren't necessarily the best, right? Including me. Like, not like I was the best. I said really bad things. I'm sure I had moments where, I just really hurt people's feelings, or I just reacted in ways that was just over the top, because that's how I am. I'm type A, I'm over the top. And so those relationships were not meant to be. When you're mixing testosterone, alcohol, the need or the want to be with somebody, but you're not really sure if you want to be with them. You like the idea of being with somebody, but the commitment of being with somebody, I mean, what a nightmare. And so I just had to understand that now I look back and I'm like, I should have just let all of them just let them be who they are, right? You know, instead of trying to force myself to have them be who I wanted them to be, right? And I probably would have learned my lesson a lot quicker. Now, I did have some good relationships. I do have, you know, friends that I am still friends with today that I had quote unquote romantic relationships with, or we were, you know, going steady per se. And I have a lot more of those than not, which is great, because when we came to the conclusion that we were not made for each other in that context, I watched them grow. I watched them do the things that they have now aspired to do, and they're in happy relationships. And so to let them go and let them do that, that's so satisfying, which allowed me, once I released all of that energy, it let me get into a situation where I met my beautiful wife, and the door was open. I was free of all the demons and the devils and all the things that I had to get. I had to release. I had to let go, right? And it allowed me to be put into a position of, holy cow, this is what I meditated on. This is my person. This is my energy. This is my everything. And it was it's just such a beautiful place to be in. You know, after the darkness comes the light, as we see or as we hear. And that's so true with what happened to me in my life. And, you know, my wife and I have been together, I think, like 11 years now. And it's been the best 11 years of my life. And I'm excited for the next 100 years if we're so lucky, right? And to establish those relationships the way that we want them to be, but not force them to be, to me, is a great moment. And it's a great aspect of the whole theory of just letting people be who they are. Because if you're forcing your ways into somebody else's aspect of life and you're taking away who they are, then you're not really in a relationship with them. You're in a relationship with the person that you're forcing them to be. And that's never healthy and never good. And the one thing I can say about, one of the many things I can say about my wife and our relationship is that she doesn't back down. I let her be who she is. She lets me be who I am. Now, that's not to say that we don't get annoyed at each other, that we don't have the normal, you know, issues that everybody should probably have in a relationship, that we don't challenge each other. I love how she challenges me. She challenges me on a lot of things that help me question why I am thinking that. She's not telling me that I need to change who I am or change my mindset. She's like, no, I'll let him be him, but I'm going to challenge him on why he's that way or doing that. I am healthy because of her. I am on track because of her. I am like, now, yes, it's because of me, but she keeps me in check, right? So that's one of the great things that, again, reassured me and gave me that confidence about what I'm doing now currently in my relationship. The let them theory, if you just look at it in everyday principle and everyday life based on what Mel's saying, just look at even the little stuff. So let's think about it. Let's talk about the little stuff real quick. In line at the bank, right? You're sitting there. You got somewhere to go. You got to take a pee. There's nowhere in a bank to pee, right? They have that thing locked down. You got 5 people in front of you, and the person that's taking up the most time up there is taking about 10 minutes because they're just small talking with the teller, and you're annoyed. Okay. I've allowed myself to just say, let them do what they do. Why am I getting annoyed over a situation I can't control? And take that moment to basically meditate in line or talk to the person next to me and establish a relationship or figure out another way to, quote unquote, not be annoyed, but utilize that time to do something productive. A big one for, I know a lot of people, is driving. Look, especially if you live in Arizona, nobody knows how to fucking drive around here. They're crazy. And even my wife still gets on my ass a few times a month because guilty as charged, and I'm sure you all can relate, especially if you're a dude. When somebody does something that's asshole-ish, we want to do something asshole-ish back. It's like whether it's being cut off, whether that's somebody that just speeds up in the middle lane just to, get to the traffic light in front of you, and they cut you off, and you're sitting there, and it's amazing, and it happens more times than not, unfortunately, and it is what it is. So this theory has helped me just say, you know what, let them. Why does it matter? Think about all the times that you've had this happen to you in traffic, and think about how many of those times you really remember what had happened. Now, I will tell you, there was one time when I was little, and I don't advocate this, and this is just for sheer storytelling, and I think this is the dumbest fucking thing that was ever done in my life. I'm in a Suburban with my 2 little brothers, my stepmom at the time, and my dad. And we're driving somewhere, and why I remember this is probably the only road rage that I remember. It was like on Bell Road. And my dad, if you've seen my dad on social media, or if, you know anything about me, he was a big boy back then too. I think maybe during this time he had still lifted weights, but he was just big, right? And he just had a hot temper. And we got cut off. Something had happened. We get to a stoplight. My dad gets out of the Suburban, goes up to this pickup, bangs on the window, and almost pulls these fucking guys out of the car. I'm like 14 going, maybe I'm a little bit older. Maybe I'm like 16. And because I know my brothers were there. One was like a baby. And I'm just like, whoa. And I couldn't, I wasn't sure if I was living in an action movie or a horror film. And I remember my stepmom at the time, she was so pissed at him, yelling at him, what if they had a gun and this and that? And she's absolutely right, 100% right. Now that, we're talking back in the 80s. So probably, even more to the point now, probably in the early 90s. And I look at that situation as the only situation that I remember based on road rage. And I look at any sort of road rage now, and I'm just like, just let them. Let them, because people are nuts. And what are you going to do? If somebody wants to be like that, the best that you can do is just let you control your situation, know your surroundings, don't text and drive, and just take care of yourself. That's all you can do. So when you look at the day-to-day on the let them theory and a lot of things she talked about, I look at the car incidents as the most. When you look at business and you look at the need to respond to every client email or even a client email that's nasty or a competitor that's nasty, or, I get in situations where I'll have competitors, let's just say not too kind of things because they want the deal, they want the business, and maybe that's the only way they know how to function to get the business and do the things that they do. And albeit that's not how I want to perform anymore, and I don't remember performing too much like that. I do remember having probably, a vindictive soul on certain things when I was younger because I didn't know any better. And I was like, why? I would probably talk shit and do all this stuff that just now I don't have the energy for, nor do I want to. I've just learned better, and putting that energy into something does me no good. So when somebody does something to, let's just say, cut you out of a deal or say that you're this or that, I just let them. And I have no reverberation back to that person on my opinion of them or what they've done. I don't care. All I can do is let myself perform the best that I can perform and do the things that I want to do. I just want to be who I am. I want to be raw. I want to be engaging. I want to be amazing to those that come into my life. And then those that don't want that or don't appreciate that, I let them go off. I let them go do their thing. I want to let people know from the very beginning who I am, what we're about, what I'm going to do for you, and perform on that every single time. Because if I let them know who I am and what I will put together, I hold an obligation to myself to do that in order to give them the best experience possible. And especially in business, it's so important. So just remember that you are the key. The biggest takeaway I get from this book is that freedom comes when you stop controlling and you start focusing on you, right? Because if you just focus on you, not criticizing or trying to change others, it takes a whole voice, it takes a whole perspective out of your mind that you don't even have to worry about anymore. It's just not a big deal, right? We're good. We're in a good place at that point. And when you just, in business, really focus on the goodness that you can do for others, whether or not they decide to take you up on that offer, or maybe they backdoor you and do something else with somebody because they don't really understand, or they didn't hear, or it didn't resonate, that's okay. Let them, because they're not the person or the company for you to engage with. What's going to happen down the road when they have that same attitude and there's no appreciation and they just leave for nothing, right? So this book is, I don't want to say, Mel has invented the wheel, but she sure has made the wheel a lot more efficient and a bigger reminder that we just jump in our car. We just assume that the engine's going to start and it gets us from A to B. And we don't even think about all the components that make it work. We don't even think about the fact that there's actually 4 wheels. Pretty soon there'd be no wheels. It'd just be a hovercraft, right? But tires get thicker, tires get better, tires get more efficient, right? Cars get more efficient. This let them theory has allowed me, in essence, to let my vehicle, my human vehicle, be more efficient. And that's what's awesome. That's what's awesome about getting a new book, a book from somebody that I never would have thought, like, Mel, really, I'm going to follow some chick with glasses and her middle age. Like, this is something that, like, honey, this is all you, right? No, I'm a man. I'm gonna read, how to milk a cow and then slay it. No, dude, like, you have to. I have to, not you. I have to really take a breath and meditate on why and what has been put into my life at the time, and listen and understand. And a lot of times I don't think that we even get why something has been put in front of us. We just assume that it's been put in front of us because it's there. But now I just listened to a podcast that she did. And I was telling my wife, as we go through this portal, I think today is April 6th. So by the time you listen to this, it'll be like a week later. But there's like this portal going on. My wife and I are all into this very spiritual sort of energy stuff, and we do live by this. And so I was listening to Mel Robbins on a podcast because I started listening to a couple of podcasts after reading the book just to get to know her more, and I liked her perspective, and I wanted to hear the voice on it. And again, I do listen to some audiobooks, but I mainly like to read just because I like holding something and reading it. A little old school, but just how it's almost like a relationship with the book almost. And so I was listening to her, and she was talking about this simplification of her life now and just doing the things that she needs to do and not the things that everybody else tells her that she needs to do. And it just hit home with me. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine, Cliff, out in California, another insurance broker that I'm friends with, he sends me this recommendation on a book called Essentialism. And I talked about it earlier in this podcast. And I can't even put that book down. I'm like, again, I can't read. I'm a dummy. I'm reading 30 pages a day, which is huge for me, especially when they're really small. And the words are small. And that book is almost like a continuation of this book and what Mel said on her podcast. It's absolutely invigorating. And so I know that I'm in the right time, in the right place, in the right moment. And that's what I would say to you listening. Look at the signs. Take a deep breath. And look at the signs. Look what's around you. What are you reading now? Who are you talking to now? Who are your relationships with? Do you have those relationships that you really want? Are you letting people just be themselves? Or are you trying to force what you want them to be, right? These are just questions. You have the answers. We all have the answers. And the answers are what resonates with us and why it resonates with us. So as we build relationships and as we do things and we build a relationship within ourselves, right? How great is it to have an amazing relationship with yourself? Because yourself has to come first. If you don't love yourself and you're not able to wake up and do the things that you love and feel good and be healthy, you can't give anybody else the greatness that's coming out of you. So the book, again, for me, 8 out of 10, whatever that means, probably 10 out of 10, if some of the other chapters or other things that had some sort of correspondence. But it's great. It's an easy read. I strongly suggest it. I'll put the book in the link below. Mel, thank you for this. As she said, this is her life work now. She's just going to get into really promoting this and doing this. We'll see, right? Most of us type A and us entrepreneurs always want to jump into some other new product. But it's really helped engage me to think about, and for you to think about too, like, what are you working on now? What are the 18 other things you're working on? And what is the one thing or the two things that correspond together that you could just work on a lot more and get a lot more out of it? So, again, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. I have promised over and over I'm going to have guests on here, and I am booking something in late April to do about 3 podcasts in a row because it's cheaper to have somebody here. If you're tired of just stressing over what people think, again, this book's a great wake-up call. Stop fighting the things that you can't control. Start investing in everything that you can, and just let them. Most importantly, let you, okay? Let you do the things that you want to do. Don't worry about what other people are thinking. Don't worry about what club you're in or not in. Don't worry about what other people will think. Do what resonates with you. So, again, thank you for listening. Please give me a 5-star if you can. It helps with the reviews. Share a review if you can. I would love it. I really appreciate the friendships and all the energy out there. So until next time, peace out.